Tell me when to go ahead. Hi, good afternoon. This is Kaisha Leoping Alfred, your host for the lockdown. And today we have a very special guest to discuss a very serious topic that affects us worldwide. And we are joined today by Juanita Headley. She's an international speaker, licensed New York attorney, and founder and CEO of Changing Cases. Some of you all may know her because she has been featured locally on CNC3, The Guardian, as well as Newsday papers. And just to tell you about Changing Cases, it's an international organization dedicated to the eradication of homelessness and sexual exploitation. So, Anita, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Most welcome. So, Anita, today I have a few questions that we want to discuss today. And the first one I wanted to ask is, what are some of the signs and identifiers in a victim of sexual abuse? And tell me a little bit more about grooming. Explain grooming to me.
What I'll start with is the signs and identifiers of a victim of sexual abuse. Now, with a small child, they may have regressive behavior, sucking the thumb or wetting the bed. With older children, they may have low self-esteem, insomnia, depression, maybe cutting their wrists, eating disorder, running away from home, STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, unwanted pregnancy, promiscuity. What about a girl uncomfortable getting undressed in front of another female, or a boy uncomfortable getting undressed in front of another boy? When you see these signs and indicators in a person, you may simply assume that they're shy or embarrassed, but in fact, I believe it's really important to get to the root cause. I've met a lot of victims and survivors of abuse around the world, and I met a young girl in Trinidad who told me that she had sleep issues. And then she also disclosed to me that she had been sexually abused during her sleep. Another young girl I met, she was very insecure, very uncomfortable with her body, and she felt as though she was not good enough and not pretty enough. Very much low self-esteem. And she'd been sexually abused and didn't even know it. In fact, she had flashbacks. And another young girl who was sexually abused, she did not have any idea of it, but she revealed to me that because she was in a children's home, she had been told that in her court case documents, it disclosed she'd been sexually abused by her stepfather from 1 to 6 months old. So some of these signs and identifiers that you see in a child, like with promiscuity or sexualized behavior, instead of judging that behavior, I think it's important to try to understand where is that behavior coming from. I know the young boy in Trinidad who was, as one may call him, promiscuous. And he would actually come to school early and have sex in the back of the classroom. Now the Bible says, do not awaken love before it desires. She heard he had been sexually abused as a child by his nanny, which would somehow explain, not justify, but explain
His behavior.
Love was awakened before its time. Now with grooming, what you have to understand, and in my opinion, grooming is something we don't talk about enough. When a child is a victim of sexual abuse, I am convinced majority of the time their parents have actually had conversations with them about safeguarding their body parts and their private parts. But I'm convinced that that information is not enough because of grooming. Grooming can be defined in one word: preparation. Preparation for school, preparation for work, or in the case of sexual abuse, preparation for sex. Grooming is when somebody does nice things to you for the purpose of sexually exploiting you. That could be taking you to Chuck E. Cheese, buying your cell phone data, paying for a new pair of sneakers, taking you to Movie Town. It is when a person does nice things to you to prepare you for sex. The grooming is not separate. And I was indeed an unfortunate victim of childhood sexual abuse, and I was groomed. I was groomed by my stepfather, who's now deceased. He would give me candy, special privileges, let me stay up late, alcoholic drinks, alcohol pops we call them, alcoholic beverages that tasted like juice. And then when I was sleeping, he would come into my room and sexually abuse me. And as a result of that, even as an adult, I still had insomnia and sleep issues. So if a person has sleep issues, I believe instead of telling them to drink Milo, chamomile tea, or Horlicks, you should ask yourself the question why, and try to uncover the reason why they're struggling to sleep. I think that's really, really important. And so I guess with grooming, it is preparation, and it's something that children need to be educated on, because far too often they are being groomed and they simply don't
Not
know it because
aware.
that's just uncle or auntie being nice. Because sometimes women do it too, and that is important to note. It is not just men abusing. I heard of a woman in Trinidad, a teacher in fact, had a student who was distressed. And when he came here and he spoke to her, he was just really upset. He was very emotional. And she asked him what's wrong. And he said that his mom's pregnant. Now, I'm an only child, and I was thinking when I heard this story that maybe he too was an only child and he would be jealous that there'll be a new brother or new sister coming along. And the teacher said to him, you should be excited. You're having a new brother
Brother
or
or
a new
sister.
sister. And he said, I'm not excited because I don't know if the baby is mine or my brother's. In other words, the mother was
Was
pregnant for one of the two sons.
wow, she was sexually abusing them. So, Juanita, that is a lot of information and very enlightening to know about this grooming because I'm sure a lot of persons can relate to what you're saying there in terms of grooming and not even recognize that is grooming for sexual abuse. But how do you respond to the disclosure of a secret as it relates to abuse?
The first thing that you've got to do when a child discloses to you, you need to believe them. I do Zoom meetings every Thursday. I do lockdown lessons every Thursday for an hour. And as someone was sharing with me, when I asked them that same question you just asked me, they said it is important to give off the right vibes because children can read your vibes. When you believe
Mm-hmm.
that child, it is not just with your mouth, I believe you. It is with your vibes, your body language. What is that child going to read from you? Number one, we need to believe the child. When they disclose something that is very personal, very embarrassing, humiliating, degrading, when they disclose, you need to believe them first of all. Give them the free dialogue to speak in a place that is safe. That is important. The next thing you do, once you've heard that, you conversate with the child, and as best as you can, try and keep your emotions in check. Don't promise what you can't deliver. I will rescue you. I will save you. If you do that, unless you're a judge or jury, don't promise what you can't deliver. It's also really important to let them know it's not their fault. They are not to blame. And also, try not to say anything negative about the perpetrator. No matter how shocked you may feel, it is not helpful. My stepfather groomed me. He was my best friend. If you said something negative about him, I will not accept that. Now, as an adult, I know I was groomed. I know he's a pedophile. But even at this stage and at this age, my secret age, I still focus on the positives. I focus on the good things. Now, he was a pedophile. So some would say, well, there's no good, but I focus on the positives. Now, think about a young child who doesn't understand it in groomed, who doesn't understand this. When you become emotional, start to slag off or badmouth that perpetrator, that isn't helpful. And what is really important when you've heard that disclosure, you communicate to the child your next steps and you take those next steps. You need to safeguard that child. Because sadly, a lot of times what happens when a child discloses, the person who's came to disclosure, they telephone the accused. If it was a pastor, they organize a church meeting. And what usually happens? They deny it. So
True.
what you need to do, listen to the child, believe them, affirm them, let them know they are not to blame, comfort them and support them, and inform them of your steps, the steps you're going to take, and why you're going to take those steps, and then do that. But it's really important, even if, God forbid, it's your biological spouse. I don't mean stepfather. I mean, it's your husband
Husband.
and your daughter whose biological father is the accused. You don't call him and ask him that because he will deny it,
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
Yep.
And he would hide the evidence. So you've got to do the right thing, which is to listen, to not judge, to give that freedom for the child to speak, then call the police and let them investigate. That is hard for a lot of people to do, but that is what you need to do. Because sadly, in TT and around the world, I meet victims of sexual abuse all the time, who tell me their secrets, tell me their problems, tell me their stories, and often somebody knew, somebody didn't believe them, or somebody asked the accused and they denied it, and then they tell me, and that's 5-6 years later. We need to change the dynamics of things by allowing the police to investigate. If that child is lying, okay, let the police investigate that. Because the police will have a very stern conversation with that child if they are indeed lying. So it's important to believe them, allow them to speak, take the next steps after you've told that child. That is important.
Okay. And one, I'm sure you would agree that most offenders normally will tell the child, don't tell a parent. If you tell a parent, they may threaten them, or they may even say that I love you, and if you go and tell, you don't love me anymore, and things like this. So can you explain how to respond to the question, can you keep a secret?
Definitely, and I've actually written a book. This is my book, Can You Keep a Secret? I've written a book on this topic because I felt our dialogue needs to change. And what you said there, it's really valid because in certain situations, not in my personal story, in certain situations, the perpetrator will frighten that child into silence. And in my book, I talk in a lot of detail about how you can tackle this. When you have that conversation with your child about protecting their body parts and also about grooming, you need to tell that child, if uncle or auntie or grandma or your teacher or the pastor, if anyone says to you that if you tell mommy or daddy or if you tell the police, and because you've been abused, if you tell mommy or daddy, I will be arrested, you'll be arrested, I'll kill your parents. Parents need to have this conversation because sometimes perpetrators say the thing you just said there, they will frighten the child into silence. And unfortunately, because the parents haven't had that conversation, the child would be afraid and want to protect their parents. But if parents can talk about body parts, grooming, and also nobody's going to send us to jail, nobody's going to kill us. If anything happens to you, if anyone touches your private parts and tells you not to tell anyone, you will go to jail, you come and tell me immediately. That is important first and foremost. And then on the back of that, when a child asks you the question, can you keep a secret, or some other variation of that question, you need to respond yes to the question. What happens far too often is adults overcomplicate that question. The question is very simple. Can you keep a secret? And realistically, we all can keep secrets. What if the child comes up to you and says, can you keep a secret? When you say no, or it depends, they will not tell you. I know the young girl, age 7, who came to school and said, Daddy's eating my cookie. That was her private parts. Using the term cookie, pumpkin, butterfly, banana is not okay. We need to use the correct terminology. Or if you're shy, call it body parts, sexual organs, genitals, private parts. Don't use the term cookie. That needs to stop. Because when the child finally gets to court, the defense attorney will destroy that child's testimony because it is not a cookie. But understand, so you haven't heard the cookie story. You've got to have said yes or something affirmative. So when a child comes up to you and says, can you keep a secret? You say yes with your mouth, and it depends with your head. Then the child would say, for example, Daddy's eating my cookie. And then how would you respond? You would tell them, for example, I have to break your trust in front of this. I have to break your trust in front of the social worker. The point is, like I said earlier, communicate your next steps first and then do them. Because if you go off and secretly phone the police, that child can recant the allegation and say that's not true. And even think about yourself as an adult. Think about if you had a secret to disclose to a friend. Or even if you were telling something private, it's not a secret and it gossipy business, you'll be mad. A friend comes up to you and says, you know, I'm in a bad mood tomorrow. At least you know, no surprise, right? Yeah. In the same way, when a child is talking to you, let them know the next step so there's no shock, there's no surprise, support them. What happens with adults, they overcomplicate. What if it's drugs? What if it's a bomb? Relax, guys. Once you've heard the secret, determine what to do. If somebody says they've got a bomb, will you determine what to do? But if you say it depends, they won't tell you that they have a bomb, and you can't do anything about it. So it's really simple. Respond yes to hear the secret. Once you've heard it, take the next steps after having told the child what you're going to do, and your next steps is the authorities, not the accused. Imagine if my mother had called my stepfather, I heard you doing sexual abuse in Juanita. He's going to deny it. And he
True.
did deny it. So
Hmm.
you've got to let the police investigate, allow the police to do their job, but it starts with saying yes with your mouth and independent of your head to the question, can you keep a secret? That is important.
Right. So I like the fact that you have to really include the children in the step-by-step process and let them know what is the next step, as opposed to getting all aggravated and upset and doing things on the spot without letting the correct authorities handle it. So one other question I wanted to ask is, what is there a link, or what are the links between sexual abuse and child trafficking? Because we know trafficking is very popular as well throughout the world.
And I think it's important people understand that human trafficking is not an immigration issue. And I'm saying this because time and time again, when I come to Trinidad and I present, when I talk about trafficking, the sad reality is the majority of locals believe it's Venezuelans. And whenever I speak, I come into the room and the first thing I say is that the information I'm giving you today, it is not about Venezuelans, it is about everybody in this room. Because what we need to understand is human trafficking does not require you to leave your home country. You could be born in Port of Spain, live in Port of Spain, and be trafficked in Port of Spain. If your mother is your pimp, you wouldn't even have to leave your bedroom to be trafficked. And I think that is important. Trafficking, the way I define it very simply, is exploitation. The way that I put it, so that we laymen can understand this, human trafficking, what does it look like? Well, in my opinion, when you have men and women in sex, you have sex trafficking. When you have restaurants, businesses, and establishments, you have labor trafficking. When you have sick people, people with ailments, you have organ trafficking. In other words, human trafficking exists everywhere in the world, including Trinidad and Tobago. And in fact, I believe it was last year, February time, there was an article that I found online, and I can't seem to access this article, but I heard about it when I was in the country, of a young girl, you may know the story, she was crying, I believe on Facebook, and saying how her mother was selling her into prostitution. This
Yes,
was
I
an underage
remember.
girl crying on Facebook.
I remember
Yeah, so
that
I've been
video.
trying to find that article, but I can't find it. I have not seen the video because I'm not going to watch a video like this. I don't watch videos. I have to protect yourself. Because when we're sending around certain videos, which is a big thing in CT, what you're doing is you're re-victimizing that person, so that's not okay. Like that picture, or the pictures of the girls who were found in, I believe, Arafat Avenue Chinese restaurant, they were
Hmm.
minors. Those pictures shouldn't be going around. Because the sad reality is when that picture goes around, what happens? My belief is that people in Trinidad are convinced it's Venezuelans. So when I come and say, well, no, it's not, they're not really going to believe that because they've seen that picture. Remember, it could be any person who's being exploited. Now, when a person has been sexually abused, let's talk about girls for a minute. When a girl has been sexually abused, she is vulnerable. That girl is abused maybe at 4 or 5 years of age, and then maybe abused again when she's 10 or 11. Then when she's teenage, she's unfortunately abused again. And sometimes when teenagers start to get into relationships, say around 15, 16, those relationships are not just platonic, they're actually sexual. And let's imagine that this girl has been abused systematically, her heart gets broken. When she gets older, she says, you know what, it was taken from me, I want to empower myself. So there are some women who stand on street corners and sell their bodies, that's prostitution. There are some women who decide, I want to work in a sexpresso cafe, which is a coffee shop where a man can get his sex act performed with his coffee in public.
Wow.
And then there are some women who enter into a relationship with a man who then she exploits her. In parts of South America, there are men who will meet a woman, date her, groom her, and marry her for the purpose of pimping her out. So she believes that's her husband, when in fact her husband is her pimp. And in high school, we have some very young boys, very handsome, who go into high schools, befriend these girls, enter into a romantic relationship, and then pimp her out. There are other women who enter into a relationship with a guy, sweeps off her feet, And then he says, I need you to have sex with a friend to pay the bills. And then he says, I need you to have sex with more people. This is the reality. But what you have to realize, a person who's been abused, they have an invisible target on their back. And I say that because unfortunately, when a person's been abused, it's like they seem to attract certain people in their life. What about women or a young girl who is dating a man who beats her up, and then the next boyfriend beats her up, and the next one? I believe it's almost as though these women give off a fragrance or an aroma, and these men can smell it. Because the question is, why is every boyfriend beating her up? When a young girl's been sexually abused and becomes insecure and thinks she's not good enough and thinks she's not pretty enough, you can tell by the way she carries herself that there is insecurity. When I meet people, male and female, I can tell immediately they're insecure. I don't know if they've been abused, but you can tell quite often, not always, you can tell by their body language, by the way they carry themselves. Imagine a girl being abused systematically, hanging out outside a movie town. A guy comes up to her and her friends and starts talking to her. And he can see out of all of the girls that she is the one who doesn't make eye contact and this and the other. And then he gives her her number. And even let's say that he walks away and he makes a comment, he observes her body language. And the issue with like the internet and how we like to tag where we are, when she tags she's in a movie town again, guess who turns up? The same guy. What you have to understand, unfortunately, we all have signs on our forehead. I don't think we can see those signs, but if you think about the kind of friends you have and the kind of people who are attracted to you, it's because of what we're giving off. People can call it aura, whatever term you want to call it. The point is we give off signs. And I want to say that I believe it's really important to have therapy and counseling because when you're abused at a very young age, you develop spaces in the brain. Now, it doesn't mean that child has mental defect whatsoever. Scientifically, it is been proven with therapy, counseling, prayer, and healing, the brain is completely restored. And if you believe in Dr. Jesus, by his stripes we're healed, he's more than enough. But I want people to understand when a child is abused at a young age, that trauma affects them. What about somebody with anger issues? I've met a lot of people around the world who've been abused, and a lot of them have shared with me insecurity, anger issues, few friends, can't hold down a job. Anger issues is stemming from somewhere. What about a man who beats his wife? That is not okay under any circumstances. But often when a man beats his wife, we say a divorce, or if we're Christian, don't divorce a friend. But my theory is that sometimes, and forward, sometimes when these men are beating their wives, the woman is never ever full, but sometimes that anger he has towards his wife is because he was sexually abused as a child and has anger issues. When we can get to the root cause of any behavior, we can get that person help and healing. Telling him to divorce her won't solve anything, he'll be his next wife.
True.
So what I'm saying is what he's doing is wrong, it's a crime. But any type of behaviors you're seeing in a person, there is a reason for that behavior. That person needs help. When you've been abused, my theory and my belief is you do not become an abuser. People say that it's not true, I'm not an abuser. When you're abused, unfortunately, that creates dysfunctions in you. And as a result, you can attract dysfunctional men or women, you can attract dysfunctional relationships. But I know, as it has been proven scientifically, that with help, you can be made whole. And I think that's important to note. None of us are damaged goods because sometimes survivors feel that way. Victims feel that way. There is definitely hope. And I think that's an important thing to sort of finish on.
Right. That's good. So, Juanita, it's interesting that, like you say, both male and female can be victims of abuse, can be victims of trafficking. So it's not just only females, but males as well. And also, too, the fact that trafficking don't necessarily mean crossing borders. It can happen right here locally and without crossing a border. So, Juanita, before we close off, do you have any parting words you'd like to say to our audience?
Most definitely. I want people to really take home on what I've said today. It's a lot of information, but I feel that knowledge is important. As it says in the Bible, people perish for lack of knowledge. When you have knowledge, you can make safer decisions. That means that you can help to protect your children. When you can identify these signs and indicators in a child in your world, you can get them the help so that they can have a healthy life. On the back of that, I'm planning locally to return to Trinidad just before Carnival next year. I'm hoping that things will be resumed because I have put in for a message, and there are still a lot of people throughout Trinidad and Tobago who have not heard my message. I've been coming for the last 4 years sharing this message of empowerment, but there's still so many people who do not know about carrying the secret, who do not know what is probably right in front of them. Because incest and abuse is very real and very prevalent in your country. On the back of that, if people know places I can speak, I speak remotely as I'm doing right now, please do reach out to me. I'll give you my Facebook, which is Changing Cases, Changing, CASES. My website is changingcases.org, changing, CASES.org. My WhatsApp is 740-1008, 740-1008. This is an important message. Every time I come to Trinidad, I've been coming for the last 4 years, I come to bring this message. And so people know places I can speak. Every Thursday at 5 p.m. TTT time, I have Zoom meetings, lockdown lessons every week. I've got a podcast, I have inspirational messages. I'm doing a lot of things. For me, I'm making the best out of this very negative situation for so many. The lockdown for me personally has been the best experience of my life in 2020. And on the back of that, there will be a session on Thursday called Testimony Times, where not just myself, but others can share positive things. We need to encourage one another, especially right now. A lot of people have lost loved ones. By the grace of God, I have not lost loved ones, but as a born-again Christian, I know I'll see them again, so I'm not concerned. But I feel, regardless of whether you've lost somebody or not, we need to encourage one another because things are changing and not necessarily for the better. Thank you so much for giving me this chance to speak, and I really hope people will invite me to come and share, to join my Zoom, to purchase my book. 60%, that's 60% of the profits from my book will be used to build safe houses in the Philippines. Why the Philippines? Because it is #1 for cyber sex trafficking. That is where children are sexually abused by family members via webcam. They're abused in the Philippines by mom or dad, and a Western man is paying for that privilege. Please support my initiative. Always looking for volunteers. Just reach out, changingcases.org.
Thank you, Juanita. But Juanita, can you tell us how we can get your book, our hands on one of your books?
Most certainly. I have a couple copies right there in Trinidad. I'm working on getting them in bookstores. If people do want a copy, please reach out to me, 740-1008, 740-1008. But there are some copies that are still in TT, and I'm working on getting them in bookstores. So please do reach out. It is an important book, and as I said, 60% of the money will be going to a good cause. So when you buy that book, you are educated, and lives on the other side of the world will be transformed.
So, Juanita, thank you again for joining us this week. You've really given us a lot to think about, a lot of good information for parents, for us to safeguard our children a lot more. So we want to thank you for joining us this week on the lockdown. Remember, you can join us on Facebook as well as YouTube. Remember to like our pages, our Instagram, Twitter, our website, trendytradeshow.com, and be sure to follow us. Look out for next week. We have another exciting series again for you, and we thank you very much for tuning in this week. Bye.